Hello and welcome to the Voice of Iron. And this is kind of a follow-up rant on something that I ranted about last week, Battletech. First off, I love Battletech, and if you didn't listen to that rant and don't particularly care to, the long and short is it is a setting where battle mechs are the main way of doing combat because it's the future, and just nuking planets that you actually want to take over turns out not to be very conducive. So limited engagements mean you need big stompy things with lots of guns in a very small area, so that you can limit the number of civilian casualties. In theory, I mean, there's still a lot of war crimes in space, but hey, that's humanity for you, at least according to Battletech. Battletech is the same setting as Mechwarrior, by the way, for those more familiar with that. Again, the other rant went over that in detail, and I'm not about to re-rant on it, because there is one particular aspect that I need to correct, or more specifically, kind of go into more detail on. I was a little wrong about how the FTL works in Battletech. Obviously, as a big setting, as a setting that takes place in between multiple star systems throughout the galaxy, or more specifically, a small chunk of the galaxy, the inner sphere, there needed to be a narrative way to get people to and from places, you know, light years apart in reasonable amounts of time. And in my last video, I said that they treat FTL as this very long process that takes a long time between star systems. Well, that's not exactly true. And by that I mean transit between planets in different star systems does take that long for the average person. If you left, I don't know, Earth, and you went all the way to, a relatively nearby star system, like Outreach, you would still be taking about, a week or two in order to get there. That's not because of the faster than light part, though, and that's what I just found out, and that's what I'm going to rant about today. You see, the actual FTL is instant, but it has a lot of limitations. So here's what I found out. I did a little bit of research, and so I wanted to find out how this worked exactly, because I don't see it talked about too much in... I love playing Mechwarrior 5, and the reason I said it took so long was because in Mechwarrior 5, when you see the ship jump in, it tells you that it takes X number of weeks or days to get from one system to the next. And I just kind of assumed that was the entire FTL time. That's wrong. Turns out that they use what's called a Kerney-Fuchida drive to get from one system to the next. And this is wild, because it is both a great narrative tool, but also they try to keep it feeling as hard sci-fi as possible by putting a lot of strict limitations on it. So let's get into it. I'm going to be glancing every now and then at sarna.net, the official Mechwarrior Battletech wiki. So bear with me here. But in short, the Kerney-Fuchida drive uses a complex series of mechanisms based around, for some reason, a titanium-germanium alloy wrapped in a liquid helium jacket, of course, and a controller, initiator, tankage, and other assorted equipment. Apparently, this core acts as a capacitor to store the energy needed to burst through space. That's some fun techno-babble we got in there, but in short, Doctors Kerney and Fuchida, more specifically Thomas Kerney and Takeyoshi Fuchida, in the Battletech setting, discovered a way to basically teleport very, very long distances in, get this, 2018. Or rather, Battletech Timeline's version of 2018. But we didn't have the technology in this timeline to actually test their theories until 2107. That kind of mirrors where we are with FTL theories right now, if I'm going to be honest. The idea of, what is the really reasonable FTL theory that we've got going on now? The Alcubierre drive. That's it. And that's an interesting theory, but we just don't have the energy or the ability to bring that to fruition. Well, Battletech kind of assumes something similar exists in that setting as well, except it's the Kerney-Fuchida drive instead of the Alcubierre drive. Anyway, whereas something like the Alcubierre drive is meant to be kind of like Star Trek Warp, where you're still moving in real space, but just very, very fast and, you know, kind of breaking that speed of light barrier. The Kerney-Fuchida drive, again, it jumps you from one place to the next. But you can't just do that anywhere. Otherwise, FTL times would be pretty much instant all over the place. In order to actually safely jump, you have to find basically a spot in space where there's no gravity interference getting in your way, or more specifically where, I guess, gravity is aligned properly so that you can actually get a good jump going. And this is also limited to only about, I believe it was 30 light years at a time, so you can't just warp your way all the way across the galaxy. Well, unless it's an accident, but we'll get into that in a minute. The point is, a lot of the time, for some reason, the safest spot, known as the zenith jump point, or sometimes the nadir jump point, of a star system is right over the star. Like, if you park right over top of the star, if we assume that a solar system is flat, which it's not, but let's assume that it is for the purposes of this thing. You know those, like, solar maps that you've seen that have the sun in the middle and then all the planets orbiting around it like a disk? Just imagine you're plopped straight in the middle of the disk right over the sun. Simple as that. Or if you've ever played Elite Dangerous, just fly over top of the sun when you first jump in. That's about how it goes. You park a jump ship there, a massive vessel equipped with a Kerney-Fuchida drive, and then it jumps from that spot to a designated spot in another star system, basically over or under its sun. One of the poles. I should have just said one of the poles to begin with, but yeah, one of the poles of the sun. Now, then you might be thinking, well, if this thing can only teleport, then how do you get to different planets in a reasonable amount of time? Well, that's where dropships come in. See, FTL is kind of a two-ship buddy system. You've got the jump ship, which is the ship that actually has the giant FTL KF drive in it, and then you have jump ships, which are designed to latch onto it in such a way that it can be caught in the envelope that's generated to teleport everything at once. And then once the ship jumps into the new system, then the dropship detaches and flies manually to the planet using sublight engines. Now, I couldn't actually find a hard figure on exactly how fast a dropship can go, but it's pretty much implied to be nowhere near the speed of light. I mean, maybe 0.8 I saw someone suggest online, but regardless, the overall idea is that that's why it takes so long to get to the planets. It's not the actual jump that takes so long. You have to use a slower than light ship within a solar system. Now, that cuts things down immensely. Heck, in real life, if we really, really wanted to, I mean, we technically done it with probes before, we can send something to Mars when Earth is close enough to it in, like, what is it, 2 months I think we've gotten it down to at this point, and that's not using Sci-Fi engine technology. So the idea of only taking a couple of days to maybe a couple of weeks to fly slower than light straight across the system to a planet, that's not too crazy. I wouldn't want to fly to Pluto using this kind of method, but it is what it is. So that is the kind of correction that I wanted to make. Is in my last Battletech overview video, I mentioned that their faster than light takes a very long time. That's only true on a practical level, on a person level. To the average citizen in the stars, yes, faster than light travel is an extremely long process. But to the actual FTL part of that journey, it's not that long at all. It takes a matter of seconds. And that's it. I know this wasn't a terribly long rant or anything, but I just kind of wanted to go over that and just mention, oh, hey, Yeah, this is what I learned about the faster-than-light travel in the Battletech universe. It's just a kind of a quick follow-up rant. Plus, I want to talk more about Battletech in the future. I think I might do more serious lore readings at some point, kind of like the sort of readings that I do for SCP or for anything like that, because Battletech is a lot of fun. But for now, I just wanted to kind of make that very loose, unscripted kind of, hey, here's what I learned about the FTL, because I think it's neat. Anyway, thank you for sticking around to the end of this particular rant if you have, and thank you for listening to my voice.